Hello, this is Catherine, and welcome back to Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Louisa May Alcott's green tea blend, which she obviously oversaw personally at Simpson and Vale. Imagine. But no, the lovely Simpson and Vale company has a line of teas named after authors that are usually pretty good ones, actually. Jane Austen, Beatrix Potter I've had so far, and they try to keep it in line with books that have described certain flavors or whatever, and they make it accordingly. So this one has green tea, but it also has strawberries and rose petals, and apparently there's mention of these things in Little Women, which we will find out together. Or not, but I think that it is a very summery tea, and yes, it is, but we're going into December, so why would I be drinking a summery tea? First of all, I'm not macrobiotic. I don't necessarily do things according to the seasons. But also, I find sometimes going into December, which is one of my least favorite months for various reasons. Even though July I don't like, so you would say, I thought you didn't like summer, right? But I like the long days. I like long days. So December, the days just keep getting shorter, with no hope until the end of the month. And by then, it's just cold and bleak and damp and maybe snowy. So I'm not crazy about December. And also, I just don't like having to wear heavy coats. I don't love summer, but sometimes I like the cheerfulness of the colors. I like spring, actually. So I'm really thinking of spring, probably. But let's not get technical. Anyway, I also kind of don't like December because when you're at the end of a year, you're constantly reminded of things you didn't do. And that's kind of sad. Not everyone worries about that sort of thing, but I kind of, even though I don't lose sleep about it, I don't, there's so many things you think about, oh, I intended to do this, I intended to do that. And I'm not even talking about weight loss and stuff like that, although to be honest, I probably put on a few pounds recently. But we're not going to talk about that. Green tea actually helps apparently, so that's good. Maybe I'm on the right track. But when it comes to book reading, I find that I will always make some of my goals, and this year I made a certain goal that I've never made before, which is beating my record of 75 books in one year. I've already done so. I will probably hit 80 really soon. Not age, although sometimes I feel that way. But there are tons of books that I haven't finished this year. When I say tons, it feel like tons to me because I can't lift anything. But not counting library books, which I had before me, but I dropped them and don't feel like bending down to pick them up. But these are some books that I own, that I started this year, and have not finished. Right? So, all good books, pretty much. I just haven't finished. And two of them I started in November, so I don't feel so bad about those. They're big. But the other two are really good books. And how have I not finished Anne Bronte yet? And then, so why am I adding on more books? Well, yes. Well, first of all, one of them is a read-along, a buddy read, whatever you like to call it. So that's just exciting. But also, it doesn't matter to me. First of all, I think that when you read for a month, you're not going to just start books in December 1st and finish them in 31st or November, whatever month you're at. Sometimes you have to flow into another month or another 2 months or 3 months or whatever. So that's one thing. I just like starting new books too. I just like starting new books every month. Did I mention I like starting new books every month? So I'm going to do that. Also, I need to shake some things up a bit because the books I have here are either nonfiction or a Victorian novel. All things that I absolutely love and absolutely want to continue reading. However, I also kind of think that that's been my entire last quarter right now. October was Victober. Wonderful, but just all Victorian novels for me. November, nonfiction November, again, totally up my alley. But I kept very strict with myself and kept to those particular types of books. And I think that I wanted to shake things up a little bit. Now, when you look at the choices that I made, they're not entirely radical, but that's okay too. So anyway, I don't really need to explain myself, do I? I think you guys understand that sometimes it just is fun to start new books. And it doesn't matter how many books I'm in the middle of, as long as I am enjoying myself and maybe learning something along the way. So, I'm going to start by showing you 2 books I have taken out of the library recently. One of which is a fiction book, so I told myself I wouldn't start it until December, and thankfully I could renew it. And the other one is nonfiction that I just haven't started, and it's small, so it's actually quite portable, as opposed to a lot of these other books. But, it's nonfiction. I found it in the library, and I hadn't put it on hold, although I had heard it recommended on BookTube by a book Olive, and often Olive is very influential on my nonfiction and other, but mostly nonfiction reading choices. So I couldn't help it when I saw that book. I really just couldn't. Anyway, so I'm going to start with that one then. How to Catch a Mole by Marc Hamer or Hammer? I think Hamer, but I forgot. So, it's just a book apparently about moles, and it's a small book, and it looks endearing, and yes, again, heard nothing but very good things about it. So I would like to get to it, hopefully very soon. If I start it before the month is over in November, I won't feel bad about that, but I probably won't have time for that. So, anyway, Wisdom from a Life Lived in Nature. It's still nonfiction, so it's not completely off what I've been doing, but that's also okay. Now, this is a book that is a little bit of a breakout for me. Not entirely, because you've probably, if you've watched my channel at all, you've seen me read books about books about libraries, books about bookshops. Kind of Paradise. So, the difference is, this is by Amy Rebecca Tan. The difference is that I think it's for younger people, mainly, that's the audience, and I have a couple of books waiting for me at the library, and at least one of them is another book similar to that. So, again, this is not my normal pick, but there was something about it. It looks cute, about this girl who has to work in the library, and I guess it's the color of the book too appealed to me. I know you don't judge a book by its cover or color, but I just love this color green, especially this time of year. It just cheers me right up. So I hope to like that. But those were just incidental that happened to be in my out of the library checkout situations. So, without even further ado, let's show you my choices of what I want to begin in December. Now, I think you know that I've been talking about Louisa May Alcott recently, and Little Women happens to be by Louisa May Alcott. In case you didn't know. I think you know. So, here's the thing. I know the movie's coming out, and I don't usually see the movies in the theater much anymore. I didn't even see Downton Abbey in the theater. Can you believe that? I haven't even seen the Mr. Rogers yet, but who knows? Maybe I will. But I would like to see this movie. I'm not worried about being spoiled, but I kind of want to read the book first. I know there are read-alongs of Louisa May Alcott coming up. I believe Kate Howe mentioned something about a year-long read-along that may have already started. And I think Little Women is coming. What is up with my hair today? I think Little Women is coming up in December as a read-along. I think it's an audio read-along. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's also a knit-along. Now, I am neither a knitter nor normally an audiobook listener. Not against it, I just don't usually. So I'm not really going to participate in that, and I'm probably not going to be reading a lot of Louisa May Alcott in the coming year, unless I absolutely fall in love with Little Women to the point that I can't get enough. But I want to at least start with this now. At least start. So I'm going to do so. And to go along with that is a library book called Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, The Story of Little Women and Why It Still Matters by Anne Boyd Rioux. Oh, my French is mal, but I think it's French. But I think I might like this, and I hope I might like this. But one of the general things is it's going with one of my goals that sprung from all these challenges and stuff, and that is I really just want to read a lot of classics, read good fiction, but I also want to sometimes pair those books up with nonfiction books that I want to read or have heard of, because I kind of want to learn as I'm being entertained. And I know you can learn from reading, you know, fiction, but there's something about having nonfiction along with it that just solidifies things in one's mind. So yeah. Now, I'm not going to read this entire book, but I have been behind very much, not very much, but a lot more than I'd like to be on my mystery reading. I don't even know if I'm going to do a tea mystery for November, which is kind of sad. But I'm also not going to lose sleep over that. There's too many other important things to lose sleep over. But I really want to get back to my Agatha Christie reading, among other mysteries, but let's prioritize this for now. And not necessarily all of these. I really want to get to The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which I have seen adapted, and I know it was good. I don't remember everything about it, which is also good. It's still kind of keeping the books in order of publication, which I like, but I am not married to. I may not be continuing reading every single Poirot and or Marple book in order, and I'm just fine with that. I generally know the order in which his life went, so it's really, for me, what I can get a hold of at the time, because if I'm going to just keep buying new books based on the order of it or taking things out of the library, I'm really not always doing myself a service in that respect. But I'm looking very much forward to getting into another mystery, especially I mean, The Murder on the Orient Express might be good too, but I can do that any part of the winter, and that is a very wintry book. But any mystery, I feel, is wintry. That cozy mystery feeling of you just want to read it in a nice armchair. Whew. Anyway, yeah, speaking of armchair, just a quick note on this cover again. Look at that armchair. I used to have an armchair like that in my little library over here. It used to be like here. And my cat Zenobia just did a lovely art project with her claws, and I can no longer keep it, and I still kind of miss it. But I'm not blaming Zenobia. She's a lovely cat. But, just coziness. That is one thing about the winter that I do like. Even though you can do this all year long, there's something about being able to cozy up with a nice sweater in an armchair with a cup of tea, of course, or any other hot drink, and just lose oneself. Now, speaking of a good winter read, this author I just tend to equate, even though I've read him any time of year, this author I tend to equate with the winter. I just do. And I think a lot of people do. Now, when I was talking about my reads for 2020 in respect to authors I either haven't read before and want to, or have read but haven't in a while, I know that anyone who really knows my reading habits would have said, Catherine, you missed out on a big one. Someone who you haven't read in a number of years. And it's true. We're talking about Charles Dickens. A couple of years ago, I started the old Curiosity Shop with my sisters. We did a sort of buddy read along, and I didn't finish it. My sister did. My other sister, I don't know if she did, but my younger sister did, Bonnie. I did not. I may eventually, but I did not. The next year we did Lorna Doone. I did not finish that either. I barely began it. I want to get to that one, but we're not talking about Lorna Doone at the moment. We're talking about Charles Dickens. In September, I began A Tale of Two Cities just to see what I thought about it, and I did like it, but I just am not reading it yet, maybe sometime in 2020. But I did not include the 2020 Dickens connection because I am going to read Dombey and Son in 2019, or at least begin it. Now, this is also a buddy read with my younger sister, Bonnie, and she has the same copy, which is always helpful because then we can read in tandem and know exactly what page we're on, so we know what we're doing. And that's great. I've heard really good things about Dombey and Son, including the fact that Katie at Books and Things really liked it and wants to talk about it even more, which, nothing wrong with that. And even though Dombey and Son is not as well known as, say, Great Expectations, Tale of Two Cities, Oliver Twist, even Bleak House, I have heard it's good, And, you know, Our Mutual Friend is not as well known, and I love that one almost more than any other Dickens. So I think Dombey and Son will be a good one. And my sister and I just thought it'd be fun to call it Dombey December, even though we'll probably end up reading it into January, February. But that's also okay. It is a big book, but, okay, without reading the end of it, it looks about as big, approximately, as Can You Forgive Her by Anthony Trollope. And in October, I carried that with me. So, as opposed to Murder on the Orient Express, well, Roger Ackroyd, whatever, I don't see myself carrying this on the train or this Little Women book with me. But Dombey and Son I might be able to pull off, and that's good. So, I hope to get to that. I'm looking forward to December now because I have actual books that I want to read and begin and complete, or not to complete. That is the question. But I just like how it's going along. At least my book reading. I just love how it's going along. So now, instead of being miserable about the declining daylight and, you know, the inevitable cold I'm going to get at some point in the winter at least, I'm going to be happy with my, you know, my books. So this has been Catherine drinking some very lovely tea, summery. Taking Tea with Catherine. Sound like I've had a little booze in there, but I haven't, I promise. This has been Catherine from Taking Tea with Catherine, and have a lovely December and a lovely day.